Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back to the show. We have Kristen Wray here again, and she's talking in regards to how she can help so many of us here with her Reiki. And I want to point out it's Reiki by Kristen Wray, and you spell it W-R-A-Y, correct?
That's right.
Perfect. So let's introduce yourself, if you don't mind, to our listeners.
My name is Kristen Wray. I've been practicing Reiki for, I guess, about 6 years now. For me, it's a daily practice and healing for me, and I love sharing it with other people. In a session, and I'd like to describe how I do sessions.
Please do so.
Yeah. So in a session, I don't need to know a lot about the person I'm working with, but I do like to know something about what they want from the session. And it could be emotional healing, it could be physical, it could be a spiritual healing. If they have sort of like anxiety, I can help with that. I can usually find where blockages are, but it's kind of nice to know what the person's mindset is going into. And then we start the session, and there's not a lot going on. I tend to wave my hands. You don't see it a lot, but I do try to give feedback as I go through.
No problem.
Because it's, because then you understand that I'm connecting with you, that I'm seeing and feeling the energy around you. I don't read minds, so you don't have to worry about that. But I do, it's something, for me, it's sharing. It's something we do together. It's not something I do to somebody so much. And I get a lot out of it myself, and I hope that my clients do too. When we're finished, I like to sort of give some reflections also. But for me, it's not, there are different lineages of Reiki, and people have different gifts. And so what a session with somebody else might look like is different from what you would get from me. And, it's all right. It's all, there's, in the Reiki precepts, there's one that says, you have to be honest in your work, what you're doing. Is usually how we translate it. But another translation is being true to yourself and your being. So being true to who you are and doing things the way that are best for you. So that's so in a session, that's really important to keep in mind, because not a lot of times, but sometimes you don't get the response you think you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of sometimes. You get what you need. And a lot of times it's like grounding, or there are things that we're carrying that we don't realize. I had a session a couple of days ago, and she's like, "Oh, it's like I'm taking bricks off your back. I'm carrying somebody."
Weight, yes. Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "I'm helping you take that off." But it was like we're doing it together. And just sort of shedding, it's just everyday life. We take stuff on and we don't realize it, especially when we're caring for other people. And then at the end of the session, we break the connection and maybe do a little bit more feedback and see how the person is looking or feeling. And sometimes I get suggestions or advice that I could give to the client, but sometimes I don't. It's just whatever comes up.
So I can call you an intuitive, right? Or are you an empath? Is that the same?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same thing. I think intuitives are more intentional about it. Empaths can be, I think that being empathic is can be a defense. Like we might have a parent that is absent or can't take care of us the way that we need. And so we have to find ways of figuring out how to get that as a child. We don't have words for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's that we start that the people who are really empathic start that way. And then when we get big, and when we get older, we take on other people's energy and we have problems with boundaries. So we um, you have to learn how to differentiate what's your energy and what's somebody else's energy and feelings and emotions. Because, as a child, if mom was mad, then you had to act a certain way to defend yourself.
Yep.
But you take it on. So as an adult, we don't want to do that anymore. We want to let other people be mad if they want to be, and it's good for them to express their emotions, but they're not my emotions.
Yep.
So, it's, so I think that being an intuitive is a little bit more intentional about it, and it's learning and it's practice.
Oh, here she is.
She is.
Let me see. What's his or her name?
This is Delia, and she likes to ignore the camera.
No, she's beautiful. She should be on camera. That like calico look of, oh, hi.
She is.
I wish my Cuddles was around. Oh, I usually lock everyone out of the room. So, but it's adorable. Oh, how old is she?
She is 13, I think.
Oh, okay.
Time
Oh,
flies, yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah, I got her as a kitten, so. Yeah. So she likes the Reiki too. And she comes when I practice and gets underneath my hands for as long as she wants. And then she goes
So
away.
you actually give Reiki to your cat then as well?
Yeah. They tend to know what they want and where they want the Reiki. So I let her just move around and try not to guess.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. I find that's true with people too. People tend to know. People really do know what they want. They don't know the words to tell you, but they know. And so it's so important to ask people what they want.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask you this. When you work with someone, you're only doing virtual like this, Zoom or telephone right now, correct? And
That's right.
Where are you based out of?
I'm in Chicago.
Okay.
Yeah. So in the city. And we're starting to transition back into, we're like the schools. We're going, oh, well, how can we do a hybrid? Because I've got Reiki these shares. So a group of us get together on Zoom and we share Reiki with each other.
You mentioned that last week.
And so,
okay.
Yeah, so we're thinking about transitioning, but we get people coming from the East Coast and from Germany and from the West Coast coming virtually, and we're going, well, we want those people to come and we want them to participate still. So how do we do that? So we're doing, how do we do our own virtual or our own hybrid? So we're trying to transition that way.
Got it.
Yeah.
And how often are you doing Reiki sessions? Now, let me ask you this for yourself personally. You do this as well?
I do it pretty much every day. And it could be chanting, it could be a meditation, it could be hands-on healing, putting my hands on my own body.
Mm-hmm.
Sound healing is really important in my lineage of Reiki. It's one of the 5 paths to they call it Kododama. It's in Aikido also a practice that is in other martial arts. Not that Reiki's a martial art, but
okay, but similar. Could it be?
Yeah, the philosophy behind it. Reiki as a spiritual practice is very similar. Well, it is. It comes straight from Buddhism, Japanese esoteric Buddhism. So, Yeah. So chanting, there's symbols. We consider the symbols like reminders of the different sources of energy, and they're not particularly magical. Some lineages think that, but we don't. I found that I have done different lineages and different practices, but I found that this one, it's simple enough, and then when you start studying more, it becomes so much more complex. So it's, yeah, but as I said before, being true to who yourself and the way you are. If somebody, all lineages of Reiki are good, and if it resonates with you, that's what you should do. This was what works for me. So I do those things. Those are my practices.
Got it.
Yeah. My teacher says that hands-on healing is our birthright, that we do. We do it. Like as a mother, we comfort our children. We kiss them and make sure they're okay.
Uh-huh.
All those things it's energy that we're giving. Reiki is considered it's Wray is spiritual. That's what it means. There are other translations for it. And Ki is energy, the energy that makes things go. It's the same as Qi in Chinese. In Chinese, the word for car is translated as a Qi wagon, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Kristen, how long have you been doing this for, if you don't mind sharing your personal background and experience, and Delia as well?
Yeah. I started meditating, and I think that's really a backbone of my Reiki practice in like 2009. And then at some point, I guess about 6 years ago, it could be longer, time flies, I started practicing Reiki specifically. So, and if I didn't have the meditation practice, I don't think I couldn't, the practice stilling my mind and being present and now is really important. So, yeah, so I do that. And then, so I've studied like 3 or 4 different lineages, and then I came upon this Japanese lineage with the International House of Reiki, and that was like home for me. So that's the one I practice.
Great. And could you share some of your personal experiences with some of the clients that you've worked on, that you've touched upon, and that you've really helped? Could you explain some of the things that your clients say, like felt like the weight of the bricks off the back? What other things in particular?
Yeah. Well, I had there's one client who had been doing a lot of work with childhood trauma, and with a counselor, and talking about, and she felt like she had cleared out and really come to terms with a lot of the events that had happened, but she still felt blocked. And so we did a session where I found a place in her body that she was still holding the energy of the trauma. It was beyond words. It was the energy. And I was able to get it to move out of the way and help her ground. And then she could go, continue on with her other work with the counselor. I really think of it as a complementary modality to go with other work, because a lot of my personal work, I do a lot of personal work and sit in circle with women. So shame and the anger, around emotional things, and so I think about those things a lot. And then there's people with anxiety that I've helped with. The energy seems to be here, the back of the head a lot, with the anxiety, which makes sense. That's where
Yeah, especially this year, right? So
yeah,
the anxiety sits here.
it sits right there at the back of the head. It's
Oh,
called it's called the amygdala, and
okay.
it stores. It's like a filing cabinet. It stores like what the things we're afraid of that are dangerous, um, which is really important. But it's good to calm those areas down. And then we tend to be in our throat. We tend to hold a lot of energy. There are things we don't say, that we hold in because just to get along with other people. Um,
Do you find a lot of the problems are in the gut?
oh yeah, that
I
is.
feel like I store a lot of my stress. I mean, I have a cold right now, so I apologize for
Uh-huh.
sounding so nasal. Maybe the Reiki could help release something, but my nose is stuffy in my throat, so I apologize. But normally,
Yeah,
I hold my stress and in my belly, in my gut, and then I get a stomach
yeah,
a lot,
me too.
and I
I
bloat
do
a
that
lot.
too.
And
Uh-huh.
doctors say, "Oh, it's IBS." And I finally, after all these years of going to doctors, I said, "What does that mean?" And then no one could figure
Uh-huh.
out the exact. And then talking to people like yourself is making me realize maybe it's an energy issue, that something is wrong with my stress or how I'm holding myself,
Well, I think to say that it's wrong might, it's the way you are and where you are right now, and that by judging it as wrong means that maybe there's not a solution, but I think there is a solution. So it's a phase.
Yeah.
You think about it that way. And then so there's an energy center. It depends on what system you're using, but in the Japanese, it's called the hara, but it's also called the dianten in Tai Chi and um, Tai Chi and Qigong. Um, and yeah, it's sort of where we ground, so it makes sense. And it's also a place where we have a lot of neurons. We have neurons in our stomach, we have neurons in our heart, and we have them in our brain. And so it makes sense that when we say we had a gut reaction to something, or we're holding our energy there, yeah, we do that. It's just the way we're built.
Well,
Um,
we're here today talking with Kristen Wray in regards to how
mhm.
she can help you as a Reiki master. And as you said, mostly virtual work you're doing, right? With people all over the
Right?
world.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Great, Kristen.
yeah, it's really an honor to be able to work with so many people. Yeah.
And what do you love most about being able to help people with this energy healing modality that you've been using for quite some time now?
I really love seeing the results, that when somebody relaxes or they tell me now, um, my headaches are not nearly as bad as they used to be, or um, their digestion's better, or they feel more comfortable speaking what's true to them. Um, it's yeah, and I love the connection and getting to know people too.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Your voice is very soothing and it
thank you.
sounds like it would very relax if I was in a session with you. I feel, do people fall asleep sometimes from this?
Sure, they do. I've fallen asleep in a session too.
Really?
Yeah, yeah. It's like I guess I got to wake them up now that we're done. Um, and then they need to ground and come back in their body and become more present. But I think part of it is just shutting down the parts of our brain that talk all the time. We Yeah, a lot of brain chatter.
Yeah.
Uh,
How do we shut that down? How do you turn it off?
Practice.
Okay. Practice
We
makes perfect.
meditate. Yeah, and
Meditation. There you go.
yes.
So, could you give our viewers and listeners any advice on the process of meditation? I know that's what you're very into and you wanted to discuss today. Could you give us some more tips on that?
Yeah. Um, It's important to start slow, for one thing. You're not going to be able to sit for half an hour to start out with. If you find people to do it with, it's good to have a buddy. And now that we're starting to be able to be with people physically, it's nice to get and know that you can't do it wrong. That our brains are thinking machines, and you can't really turn off the thoughts, but you can not attach to them. It's our attach when we get stuck to a thought and sort of obsess about something is when we start getting anxiety. And it's good to say that's a thought and recognize it as a thought and let it go. And then tell yourself that, yes, those things are important, and we'll think about them in 10 minutes or 30 minutes when we're finished meditating. We can always time to pick something back up if it's important. Yeah. So, it's being kind to yourself, and self-compassion is where we start. There's another Reiki precept, be kind to yourself and others. And how do you start being kind to others is being kind to yourself, and compassionate, and not taking yourself too seriously.
Which sometimes is easier said than done, right? So if someone wants to work with you, how do they reach out to you, Kristen?
Here it is. They can call me if they want, and leave a message, or sometimes I answer. It's 872-221-0576. That's 872-221-0576. And my email is kaw.reiki@yahoo.com. And you can also find me, I'm on social media too.
Are you under Kristen Wray? Can we just spell that for everyone to make sure they have it?
Yeah. It's Kristen, KRISTEN, WRAY, and 123.
Perfect. And in closing today, what would you like to leave for our listeners, of course, in regards to your Reiki services?
I really enjoy working with people and getting to know them. And I feel that this is a good way to get in touch with yourself, and a calmness and centeredness that can make your life better.
Great. Well, please reach out to Kristen, tell her we sent you, and it's a pleasure speaking with you again. And is it Delia?
Yes.
Where'd she go?
I'd have no idea.
Oh, okay, I was going to say goodbye properly. But next time, maybe I'll bring Cuddles to the mix, and we could do a Reiki. Maybe you can help me do a Reiki on my cat.
Sure, that sounds fun.
I'm not kidding. That is a great idea. I'm not kidding. Let me know if we could do that next week, okay? You have a great
We definitely can. Okay.
Thank you so much. I'm going to make sure I'm back on this day in my home studio. All right, you have a great day, and we'll talk soon. Everyone else the same. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned. This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.